All right, let's dive right in with a pretty wild idea. What if I told you that when it comes to changing how you feel, the one thing you're doing to make it happen, trying harder, is the very thing that's keeping you stuck? It's a huge paradox, and we're about to unpack exactly why our best efforts can completely backfire. I mean, you know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You want to feel less anxious or maybe less sad, so you roll up your sleeves and you get to work. You try to force the thoughts out, you try to control how you react. And somehow the feeling just gets bigger, louder. So, what is the deal? What's actually going on here? Well, this brings us to what we're calling the effort paradox. In pretty much every other part of life, at work, at the gym, learning a skill, more effort gets you better results. It's just common sense. But when we turn that same approach inward on our own emotional world, it can backfire and actually crank up the tension instead of easing it. And the first thing to get is that this is not a personal failure. It has nothing to do with a lack of discipline. It's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how our own internal wiring works. When you apply that kind of force to your feelings, you're accidentally flipping on the exact mental systems that are designed to resist change and keep things just as they are.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty. What is actually happening inside our brains when we try to push our emotions around? This is where it gets really interesting.
So think of your brain as having this internal security system. Its job is all about vigilance and control. When you apply that forceful effort, you're basically sending a red alert to that system. You're screaming, "Hey, something is wrong here, be on guard." And what's the result? Your brain becomes watchful, resistant, the total opposite of being soft and receptive to change. This sets off a whole chain reaction. You apply effort, your brain senses that as pressure. Its defenses immediately go up. And the final step? The very change you're fighting for gets actively blocked. You've basically created an emotional gridlock, all with the best of intentions. And I really want this point to land. This struggle is not about your motivation levels. The problem is the strategy of effort itself. It puts your brain into a defensive state, a state that's designed to preserve old emotional patterns, not allow them to soften and update. Okay, so if pushing harder is actually the problem, then what on earth is the answer? Let's explore a completely different path, one that works with your brain's natural tendencies, not against them. And it all comes down to one word: ease. Now, let's be super clear. Ease does not mean giving up or being passive or just ignoring your feelings. No way. It's actually way more powerful and subtle than that. Ease is simply the absence of resistance. It's about creating a safe, low-pressure space inside yourself where your brain's defenses can finally stand down and change starts to feel possible. And you can see the contrast so clearly here. The path of effort is all about control, vigilance, fixing, pushing. It's a constant battle. But then you look at the path of ease, and the words are totally different. Receptivity, softening, allowance, settling. It's not a fight. It's a gentle invitation. And this next idea, just let it sink in for a second. This is a game changer. Your brain is not actually resistant to change. It's just really sensitive to pressure. Your brain is not your enemy here. It's designed to adapt and learn. But the moment it feels forced, it shuts down the very flexibility it needs to do that. So this leads to a huge question, right? If we're not supposed to force change, then how does it ever actually happen? Well, it turns out the real path to change is surprisingly indirect. You see, the most profound emotional shifts almost always happen in what we can call low-resistance states. And all that means are those moments when we stop trying so hard, when the effort just drops away. It's in those moments, when our defenses are down, that our brain can finally do its natural job of updating old emotional learning. So where do we find these states? Well, think about it. Change happens in moments of rest. It happens when our attention is soft and unfocused, not laser-focused. Basically, real change happens in the background, when you're not actively trying to solve yourself anymore. This is the key. This is how our minds truly recalibrate. It's like a garden, you know? You can't make a plant grow by pulling on it. You just give it the right conditions: sun, water, good soil, and it grows all by itself. Our brain is the exact same. It changes most reliably when it's given the right conditions, free from all that pressure. Okay, so let's tie all of this into a new strategy you can actually use. This isn't about giving up on change. Far from it. This is about letting go of the one tool in your toolbox, that forceful effort, that just plain isn't working. And it's so important to get this straight. Trying less does not mean you care less. Not at all. It actually means you're trusting more. You're trusting your brain's incredible natural ability to heal and adapt if you just give it the right, gentle conditions to do its job. So, if you've been struggling with this, I really want you to reframe that entire experience. It is not a sign that you are failing or that you're broken. It is simply feedback. It's a sign that too much effort has been applied to a system that responds to ease. You've been pushing on a door that was designed to be opened gently.
And that's the big idea I want to leave you with. What if that breakthrough you've been searching for isn't going to come from doubling down and trying even harder? What if instead, the most powerful and effective next step you could possibly take is to just try a little softer?